travel tomorrow down to Durham, North Carolina, and I think our kids are excited. Had a good week of practice. Preparation's been good, and looking forward to seeing how we match up against the Duke Blue Devils. So, questions?
What do you know about Kazir and Bart?
I would say they are very, very questionable for this weekend. So that's what I would say.
Do you expect them to be ready before the end of the year?
There's a possibility, yes.
Okay.
So, Mr. Injury Guy, season.
Duke runs the ball really effectively, but you guys have stopped the run a lot this year. I think you're 15th in the country. You know you were number 1 in the ACC. What kind of things do you say to your run defense, or do you need to say anything to your run defense to be like, this week could be a prove-it week about stopping a big back like Durant?
I mean, he's a great back, one of the top in the country. I think he's an NFL tailback. He reads the plays really well. He hugs the inside zones to the point where you overrun it. We had one of those last week where we overran it, and we didn't get downhill. So it's a kind of a double edge. That's really bad when you do that. But he's a good tailback, so we have to stop the run. They like to run the ball first. They'll have their RPOs off of the runs, of course. So you get in that double edge. Which one do you want to stop? And the more guys we put in the box, the better chance we have continue to be a really good run stopping defense. But there's times we're gonna have to take our chances and keep a guy out of the box. So I think that's what you play that game. It's a guessing game. But the tailback's good enough to beat you all by himself. So we got to be careful. Again, as a defensive guy, you better stop the run and take it out 21-10. Let the quarterback throw it and see what happens.
Pat, are his receptions checked down, or are they looking for him a lot?
They're looking for him. They'll run him on wheel routes out of the backfield into the boundary mainly, but they love tee shoots. I mean, they hit us a few years ago on a tee shoot, which Miami did last week. We shut those down, which a year before that they hit us on. Well, I don't know if they hit us on tee shoot, but the Y shoots up the middle. But they, versus some of the things we do, they'll try to check and get some of their tailback down the middle on wheel routes. So he's a great player, and it'd be smart for we got to know where 21 is all the time, in the passing game and the run game. So not a whole lot of checkdowns, but he will check it down too. Those aren't going for 60.
Was Wendell's decision a surprise? Did you have an indication that was coming?
Surprise, but in today's day and age with the portal and other opportunities, and you're graduating and you're trying to make early decisions, so maybe you can get your name out there a little earlier until it's too late, which is smart in a way. But it's always surprising. I think our culture here is really good, and but this is what the NCAA has created, and that's where we are. Wish them luck, and it's part of the game nowadays. It's you can't ever look back at yourself and say, what did we do? You gotta just look forward and play the next guy.
You had, for most of the season, Servasi had seen time in the middle and played some outside. Does it take away your opportunity to play him outside now with Wendell not around?
No, not really. We'll do both. We've got a lot of faith in Brandon George as well, and Chase Pine's right there as well. So we've got plenty of guys who can play the middle linebacker position.
What have you seen from Brandon George? He's done a lot of special teams. How's he grown over the past year?
Brandon just continues to get better, I think. He's a football player. He's a throwback. He can do a lot of different things. He's been outstanding, special teams. Whenever you give him a role, he gets it done, and that's why we have faith that that he can do the linebacker stuff too.
Pat, sorry I missed it, but Taysir and Jalen very questionable. You said.
Yeah.
Okay. The guys behind them in terms of the trust that Kenny has and those guys moving forward.
Got a lot of trust. You got Jared Wayne, who's played a lot, and in the slot we can move anybody in there. So we expect to play 3 a lot.
What have you seen out of Bradley?
Jaden's been, he's a gamer. I shouldn't say he's a gamer. He practices really well too. When he's on the field in between the white lines, he's a football player. He studies the game. I really like that guy's going to be a future star. We've been excited about him all year. He played 4 or 5 plays last week, and he's a guy that's going to be in the game quite a bit, and we feel good with him. He knows what he's doing, and we like what we see out of Jaden.
Pat Grado was telling us this week that he and Gabe were talking about when they were third stringers and how they've worked their way up to get to where they're at. Do you use them, or is that a good example you can show the other guys, like, hey, you come in, you work, get the opportunity?
Yeah, I think that's we use that all year, and it's about patience, and some people have patience and some people don't. So, everybody wants, to wave their magic wand and have the instant success. We'd all like to, but it takes time to do whatever you do. It doesn't matter what the profession is, I didn't become a head coach overnight. You had, take your lumps and do your job and be a GA and go through and it's just like anything, but it's the patience it takes to wait your turn. So.
Generally speaking, if you know early in the week before your first practice that a key guy on the other team isn't going to play, how does it affect your approach to practice and your approach to the game?
It depends on how good that guy is, number one, and it depends on what you know about the backup. If you think the backup stinks, then it can change your preparation. But if the backup is just as good or better, then it should not be a problem. You're kind of going, this guy's coming in now. That means he's getting more reps. So I think that's what you look at.
So coaches would rather not get that information out early in the week.
Say it again.
Coaches, not just you, but coaches generally wouldn't want to get that information out early in the week.
I don't know. I don't know if it matters. I mean, you're looking at the players, and you whether you do know something or don't know something, you still got to prepare for both of those guys anyway, or whoever it is, whether it's a quarterback, a wide out. I know you're trying to refer. You're really sneaky there, Jerry. Too slick for me. Or a corner, it doesn't matter. It's like you're still prepared for the other guys.
How much of a role does, Servatier and some of your off-ball linebacker guys flowing around this week with the run fits against the rushing offense you guys are about to face? How much does that role increase with that presence out there?
Every week is the same problem. I mean, you went down to Georgia Tech and, I forget the tailback's name, but Gibbs, he's a great back too now. He didn't have a great day. For whatever reason, that him, maybe he didn't feel good, maybe we were good. You don't ever know what the reason was, but I think he had 10 carries for minus 10 yards, and he was, he's a guy. He still is a guy. I think that guy's a great tailback. I told you that on a Thursday or Monday or whatever day I told you. But it's the same. But our focus doesn't change as far as, hey, this week we got a good tailback, so let's have good run fits today. Like that's how we practice. That's what we do every day. It can't be hey, we better learn how to fit it this week. We know how to fit it. That's natural. But you got to dissect. Hey, what else are we stopping? And we try to just tweak things every week based on what we're seeing and how we're doing it.
Kenny was telling us yesterday that the way how tight knit the team is, it's kind of sets itself up nicely to play on the road in those kind of environments, but also for what's at stake over the next 4 games in the ACC. You guys know the margin's kind of slim in terms of how this team is set up. How do you view it? How do you view that?
Do what?
Like, I guess how this team is prepared for not just Duke, but the stretch run here in the ACC.
I think we're very well prepared. But that's what we've worked for over a year. I guess 11 months. That's what we prepare for is these opportunities. But it's not about the next 4. It's about this one. Because if you overlook the one, the third one, the fourth one doesn't matter. I mean, they don't matter. So it's about this one game, and I don't look any further than that. I mean, Kenny told you what you wanted, what you liked. That hey, the team is tight knit. We stick together. We keep playing, and we take them one at a time. So that's what you do.
How has David Cutcliffe changed at all in your experience with him as a coach? Has he changed his approach at all? What kind of a coach is he?
He's a great coach. He's an offensive coach. I look at their offense, ranked 25th or 26th in the country in total offense. They're good. They got a great rushing game. So all good coaches are, doing what they do well. They run the football really well. They got a great tailback, and they're putting the ball in his hands, which is where you want the ball. We put the ball in Kenny's hands because he's, him and Jordan are 2 guys. Izzy, the rest of our tailbacks. You're going to put the ball in the guys' hands that you feel like are going to make plays. So I'd say he's really smart by handing it off to 21. So I think he's a heck of a coach. I don't know all the inner workings of how he's changed through the years. I just know he's a good coach. They're very detailed. I don't care if it's an onside kick you're worried about. I mean, you just watch some of the things. They got smart players. So smart players are able to do more things on the field. And, some of the different, fake punch you worry about, fake field goals. They do a lot of different things on their kickoff team, to maybe gain a possession. So I think Coach Cut likes the ball in his hands, and he's always going to try to gain a possession. So we're ready for, every one of the, onside kicks they've tried throughout the years. They tried a fake punt down there against us a couple years ago. That was unsuccessful on a 4th down and 7 pass on a little tight end kind of wheeled out. And Dane Jackson made a nice play. So I mean, there's all those things. To me, that's smart. And you know, the smarter your players are, and when you got good coaches like Coach Cutcliffe, you know, you can have more of those little things in during the week. Sometimes it's hard to put that in. It's like how much, you know, information overload for your kids. You know, they weren't worried about that. Let's make sure the pump protection's good. So it's all, you know, so they've got smart kids and they do a great job.
Phil Campbell told us during the week there's a more of a playoff type of urgency right now with the team, knowing that there's, you know, the margin of error is a lot slimmer after Miami, the loss to Miami. What kind of, has there been a different message as far as how you guys have struggled against the pass in the 2 losses of those games, or?
No, there's been no extra message. There's been, you know, to me, pressure is a bad word. You know, pressure is when you're not prepared. Okay, you know, there's good stress and bad stress. Pressure is bad stress. You know, stress is, you know, everybody has stress, but pressure, you know, there is no pressure. You know, there's one game, and you can't play like there's pressure. Okay, pressure, you know, pressure is not good. So I'll have a talk with Phil. Glad you tell me that. EJ didn't tell me any of that. He didn't know anything about pressure and stress.
Thanks, Chris.
But you know, I don't watch those interviews, but it's always good to get the insight. So I talk to Phil. There's no pressure. There's no playoff. No one's talking about, you know, like it's a, you know, do or die. To me, that's, you know, let's go out and play one game and worry about one game, and that's what we try to focus. So we don't want to go off script.
That's an old Chuck Noll quote. You only feel pressure when you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, pressure is when you know, when you're not prepared. Okay, you guys have all taken those tests, Jerry. I know you struggled in school, you know, back in the day. But when you had that math test guy,
National Honor
and
Society.
you weren't ready for it, that's pressure. When you walk in that classroom and you sit down and teacher's got that crown on his face and you're like, ooh, and you don't know what you're doing, and the teacher asks you when you go in there, hey, you ready to go? And you're like, yeah, you know, and you're not ready to go, that's an issue. But when you're prepared and you prepare out there, you prepare off the field, you watch videotape, you know, you're not, there's no pressure there. I think that's the key. And we try to, that's something we do, you know, make sure our kids understand. So I'm gonna hit Phil, I'm calling him when I leave here today.
On the field, off the field, how have you seen him grow over the years from the kid you saw in Clearwater?
You know, he's grown up a lot, he's matured, he's like one of the old men, you know, on that defense side of the ball. You know, he was just a baby a couple years ago, and he just continued to learn. And I think Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver have been good for him. That guy is in here like Patrick Jones, and those guys learn. They see the older guys and what they did before him, and we know our older guys are always the leaders on our football team. But Haba has watched those other two, and now he's in there. I mean, I walk by that D-line room at 9 o'clock at night, and I look in there. I'm thinking it's Coach Partridge sitting there at the computer in there, and it's Haba in there watching tape. I mean, that's a beautiful thing to see, and that's how he's matured. That's important, and he knows what's going on. He's a smart football player, and that helps.
I think you've played almost every stadium in the ACC. Is Duke the farthest walk from the locker room to the field?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything else?
It changes all your pregame timing, you know. It rushes your kids. I mean, you got to leave a little bit earlier, you know, so you have less time. At halftime, your halftime, you know, it becomes shorter because you got to get in there and get it. We time it. It's a 3-minute in, 3-minute out. That's 6 minutes from halftime. So it's 6 less minutes of any, you know, adjustments that you're trying to make at halftime on offense or defense or special teams for that matter. So it really steals from your halftime. I think you know they should hold their team out on the field until, you know, we get into locker room. It's just not a fair deal. So not real excited about that walk. And I like to walk, but on a, you know, Sunday afternoon in the
good for
fall,
you.
kick the leaves when you have an open week, but not, you know, we'll have a brisk walk. We'll try to turn it into 2.5 minutes. Coach us out, we'll have a stopwatch so we know exactly what it's going to take. How good do we walk this week?
Do you hope to give, this is going back a couple days, to give the running game a chance to gain more traction this week?
I hope so. It depends on what the score is. You know, if it's 21-7, you know, we'll look at it, play by ear. Coach Whips makes those calls, and he's done a hell of a job all year, and I expect him to continue to do a great job, and let him do his thing. Get in the end zone, score, and win. That's all I care about.
Okay.
Doesn't matter